The Black Anglo-Saxon, your boy. We back here again today. Want to thank everybody for coming and steadily supporting. Your boy had a bad case of the flu, couldn't run, couldn't do much of anything. But I am back here today to talk about Michelle Obama. Last time we had a conversation about her, she was very, very much well in the wrong. But today I would like to say that Michelle Obama will be cooking in this upcoming clip because she hit everything on the nail in terms of Black progress or the lack thereof in terms of what it means about leadership. And she talked about it from the space of society. So I'm going to go ahead and really let her jump in here real quick so we can get right into it.
One of the problems with society today is that nobody wants to move on from leadership. People hang on too long and they hang on beyond their usefulness or even their practicality. I mean, as we get older, we think a different way. Leaders are supposed to move on to make room for the next generation that has new ideas, new energy. But because there's no place for our senior leaders to go with honor and dignity, I think people hold on too long. And I think we suffer as a society, as a nation, as a world, because we haven't figured out how to honor our elders, to give them a space to leave gracefully, to really give them a place of honor so that they feel ready and anxious to go there.
So y'all heard it straight from her. I think that is 100% spot on with the few exceptions. And I'll add on to what she said then at the end there a little when she mentioned the space of being anxious to leave a lot of these spaces. And I think I want to be clear in what I'm saying and very careful in the way that I want compassion to be understood. That what I'm saying is that a lot of this has to do with the fact that a lot of the elders have not also taken stock. They have not also taken the time to stop and assess the actual programs, the actual things that they have done and put in place and mechanisms that they've used or resources that they've built, that they've attained, and basically just taking a good inventory and seeing as to how and where we are, and especially more importantly, them in the whole ecosystem as a society. Because I think it's very important in what she talked about when she related it to society and not just the Black community, because I can only speak from my community, because I'm here in DC and we have a lot of people. I think the biggest example that we have right now is Eleanor Holmes Norton. She is running for Congress and she shouldn't be, given how old she is, given her cognitive ability and capacity, etc. And I mean that with no disrespect. And I think we've gotten to a space where we can't even necessarily have these conversations and critique in a certain way, because in a lot of cases, we've made it so that any critique is some type of shaming or some type of disrespect or some type of, especially in DC, disloyalty. The word disloyalty gets thrown around a lot in this city because people don't necessarily always agree or see eye to eye when it comes to the different things that people do or don't do. And we may have disagreements, and because those disagreements may come about, it gets dislikened and juxtaposed to actual disloyalty. And therein lies also that friction in between the transition of leadership, because what also has happened is we have this staunch divide where a lot of the youth don't necessarily see eye to eye with how the older generation has came about, for lack of a better word, or came to their fame, because a lot of it had to do with playing the quote unquote game. And I've said here all the time that I get it. I understand that people had to make decisions at the moment in time when they had to make the decisions, but you also have to take stock in those decisions, and you also have to understand that even though you might not have had to be accountable for those decisions at the point in time where it happened, you might be facing your accountability later on, which is why I see a lot of people stepping down, a lot of people stepping back, a lot of people moving away, and a lot of different movements happening when it comes to Black leadership in all different industries. And Michelle Obama also brought up another great point in terms of what it means to be able to find yourself in a space that is of dignity. And to be honest, you know, and a lot of people might take it as disrespect, and I mean nothing by it, but what we have to really sit and had a conversation about is that we haven't gotten anything for the acquiescence that we've given. We haven't gotten anything for the moves that we've made. And what I'm talking about is the collective. I'm not talking about individual. Yes, you have people individually who are good, who are well off, who are able to reap the benefits of the quote unquote golden ages of America. But the problem that they're facing is, and this is what Michelle Obama is talking about, and other people have talked about this as well, is that you don't necessarily have anywhere to roll all of those assets and resources into and park them in a way where they're not being attacked. I think, and I'm no, not I think, Yvette Carnell always brings this up when she talks about plugs and outlets because it's a conversation around that very concept, and she articulates it very well when she talks about it for length, right? But what happens is people don't want to have a conversation that a lot a lot of gains have been made. I'm not here to say that our elders did not put in the work, did not make any gains when it came to us having certain rights, us having certain privileges as it relates to the group moving forward. But we also have to ask ourselves, what do we also give up in return for that? And did what we give up kind of equalize that on the same end? Because we don't have any industries to even create, for example, the pipelines, because that's another thing that Michelle Obama is talking about. Because essentially, there would have to be a not just institution, but an industry for us to basically sit at the helm of. Because the problem that we've done and that we face and we see ourselves in right now, and I don't even think a lot of them really realize it, is that because they continue to play the game, they continue to want to sell playing the game, not realizing that the game is bent and the game is positioned to where we lose. The group that the game that you're playing and the game that our elders are playing right now, they don't understand that the game is we lose. So the more you keep acquiescing to the game and the more you keep playing it and the more you keep entrenching and the more you continue to build upon and give it new tools, whether it be yourself, whether it be different business models, whether it be different, identity politics, where we kind of do this thing where we share our heritage with people and we share our social political capital with people, where we do things like saying want crow, right? Because that lends and extends, but it also equalizes and neutralizes. And I said in my last episode how you can't continue to use and abuse yourself as a tool and then think that when the time is right, that same hammer or that same nail or that same drill is going to work appropriately, because you've bludgeoned it so much and you bludgeoned it and used it so much that it's dull. If you liken it to a sword, it's dull. It doesn't cut anymore. It doesn't have the same sharpness. It doesn't have the same oomph when you use it. And so what happens is that when you try to transition into some of these companies or some of these other industries that are helmed by people who don't look like us, people, more importantly, who don't share our values or who don't share the idea that we really and truly deserve equity in the space that we have equally helped people build, because they look at us as the leeches. And unfortunately, I don't know why, but our elders, for some reason, just are not willing to admit the truth that we were bamboozled. They still sit around and they think that working 20, 40, 50, 60, 80 more hours on top of the gazillion hours that they've already worked, because they've had to work 4 times, 8 times, 20 times as hard already, and they think working 100 times more harder is going to get them over the hump. And they don't realize that the goalpost is just being moved. And for the life of me, I don't understand, because I really and truly try to have conversations. I try to sit and I try to understand and I try to see what it is that they're seeing. Because as a person who is respectful and has some level of deference and reverence for all of the things that they have done, I don't agree, and in some cases respect the moves that are being continued to be made now, because it's like we see the writing on the wall. We see it on the wall, people. Everybody else is acknowledging that the writing is here. You all don't have the spaces. You all are moving and working and existing in anxiety because there are no spots and no safe havens for you. Has been nothing created. The only thing that is created is a hubble that you have to continue to acquiesce, fold, and quote unquote play the game to enjoy any type of resemblance of comfort. Because I'm not even going to go as far as to say peace, because I know how unpeaceful it is to have to constantly acquiesce to something that you know is possibly attempting to destroy you, your family, and your wealth, and everything that you have built in process of fighting for everything you have fought for to get to where you were.